Hello everyone. So in this video, I thought I'll probably share, not just share, but also, give you some ideas when it comes to using Jira Work Management. Now, Jira Work Management is actually quite good. I mean, when I talk about Jira in general, I come from Jira server data center background, and of course, I'm not massively pleased with all the focus on Jira Cloud, but I understand Jira Cloud is probably purely in terms of revenue or profit. It makes more sense if majority of organizations they are moved or forced to move to Jira Cloud for Atlassian, I guess. So, anyways, so Jira Work Management is definitely good. I have been using it not just for my own personal playing, but also for my customers. I worked with them and we did start using Jira Work Management. Now, Jira Work Management is, of course, good, and at the same time, it is also a bit limiting. And I want to talk about those good and bad aspects, but I want to focus today on those cases where you might not want to use Jira Work Management. Now, when you talk about Jira Work Management, great thing is that you have different ways to work and interact with your issues. So you have, of course, this, and by the way, this is like a new review, and this just, I think it was like last month or maybe 2 months ago or maybe three, I don't know. It was recently, to be honest, this, tabular view on top. So you have different tabs, and on the front summary page, you can see, some ready-made details. And I wish if these can be configured, but anyways, we can always create our own dashboard. Anyways, but if you look at the board, I'll come back to the board because that is actually the main thing. You can of course have this view where you can filter and take a look at the group by option here. You can also have some customizations, not really a lot, but the main thing is here is that you can see the options to make this view a bit more flexible, or in a way I should say based on who is looking at it and what you're trying to do with the board. Because your board can have a lot of items, and these filters and options to group by status and priority, it can definitely help you, and it will of course make it easier for everyone to use the tool. It is good, I like it. At the same time, list view, calendar view, they're all great because not only you can look at the information in a list view, but you can also interact with it. You can also, for example, change the status and update the fields wherever applicable, of course. Then calendar view is actually very useful because you can look at what is happening or what is planned on those activities, but you can also add items. So you can actually plan something from 5th to 6th of April or May, another task, and it will be basically there for you on the calendar. So when I look at it, when I use it, when I work with my clients from users' perspective, people who are going to use the tool, it is great. It is wonderful. And at the same time, these features like forms and I quite like the idea of these shortcuts, forms and pages and issues. Basically, I feel it will be useful, and it's not just about my feeling, it's more about my experience. It works really nicely. But the problem is that although these features are great, but there are a few things that are actually quite annoying. And when I say annoying, they are really like, those things can be showstoppers. Now, usually people want to spend a lot of time on the board itself. Now, the problem is that unfortunately, when you talk about it's not really always a showstopper, but it can be a showstopper. So let us say you want to create a very simple work management board for like top management, and they just want to look at the information, and of course they're happy with this because they can also create new items here, and you have the list option, calendar option. So these options are great because they want to use Jira Work Management for these features: list, calendar, timeline. It is wonderful. But the problem is that on this view itself, you can't really have more than one board. It is a problem, right? It's a major problem, because when you have like a normal project in Jira, like a Kanban project, you can have multiple boards appear on the same project, and you don't really have any option to map those statuses to those columns. So when you have like 5 statuses or 10 statuses in your workflow, those will appear as a different column. Of course, you can still manually like drag and drop and change the order. But there is also one more problem, because the Jira Work Management's workflow is nothing but a normal workflow. It can be a simplified workflow, I believe, like or I should say a workflow with all transitions, like open workflow kind of a thing, where you can reach any status to any status. But if you have like a path that you want to follow, the tool is not really helping all the time. For example, if I expand this, and now if I try to move the item to in review, I can. From in review, you may want to move it to draft, you can. But this can be, because I believe there is probably, I'm not really sure if it's a bug. When you like start dragging the item, if you are supposed to follow a path in a Kanban board or a typical Jira board, there is usually an indication like of the next stage. For example, like I was expecting the next possible states to be highlighted. I'm sure you have seen this in a typical board. If I collapsed it, if I basically collapse the column, then there is in a way some indication, right? But no, it is not really an indication. I mean, I'm just expecting it to show me the possible states where I can drop this task. So for someone who is looking for a path to follow, like for a process where you want people to only, I mean, it's not really a problem. Of course, if you don't really have a transition to one of these states, you won't be able to go there. But some kind of indication can be useful. So I believe it's not really a suggestion. Yeah, I guess it is a suggestion. If, let us say, we can have these features like a list view, calendar view, timeline, forms. No, I mean, forms are probably not, no. I mean, yeah, okay, why not? Basically, all these features in our Kanban board as like an option to enable or disable. In fact, to be honest, I'll say that I don't really think we need Jira Work Management and Jira Software as a separate, or even Jira Service Management, to be honest. It should be just one project, and you should be able to enable the features. That is it. Because if you look at the form is nothing but, in a way, it is like a smaller or like a simpler version of Jira Service Management, right? Of course, you're not really going to get a portal, but all of these should be just some features that you can enable or disable. That is how I believe it should be. Imagine a project that you create. If you need a Kanban board, okay, I need a Kanban board. And Kanban board is nothing but, those columns. But if you need a backlog, because in a Kanban board, I think on data center it is definitely there, you can actually have like a Kanban backlog. But if you want sprints, okay, enable the sprints, then you will have, typical Scrum. But if you need calendar view, you can have calendar view. If you need roadmap is definitely there. But make these features nice, good features as like a optional feature that you can enable or disable. But natively, I'm also fine with nothing but, list of issues. And based on how I want to manage my work, I can still manage it using a board or a list. So I was talking about board. What you can still do, fortunately, is you can always create your own board with issues from Jira Work Management, and that will work. But the problem is that then people expect, because if I create that board for the higher management, they will expect, or they will start complaining about, okay, this is fine, but I don't really see my calendar. And it is not always easy to convince people to look for the same information at 2 different places. Anyways, I hope you understood what I'm trying to convey here. Jira Work Management is fine, but it is still, not yet there. All right, that is it. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much.